Squirrels! So hello, and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra video. As you can see, we've got Sivir, so let's dive straight in and see what we've got. Make sure it's not too loud for you. And in we go.
I've got a price. Sign on the dotted line.
Sivir, and I think it's pronounced Sivir. If it's wrong, let me know. But a 4-mana 5/3, so the old Ash slash Nocturne stat line with quick attack and spell shield. I mean, straight away that's pretty good. And you've dealt 35 damage. Now I'm assuming that encapsulates like all damage, combat damage, spell damage, anything that you can think of, straight direct face damage like Legion Saboteur, etc. I'm guessing that encompasses everything with Sivir. And I have no idea how much damage you do in a game. So I don't know how easy or hard that is. But just from the fact that it's a 4-mana 5/3 with quick attack and spell shield, I think that Sivir is definitely playable already, right? Like, that's a nice thing to have, and I'm assuming that the level up does something pretty neat. So let's go on.
Danger pays. Here's your cut.
New keyword, Reputation. Activates if allies have struck for 5+ damage at least 4 times this game. So obviously we're getting sort of Noxus synergy. That's what it looks like here. Which I love because I love the 5 attack units. So I love this. Reputation. So this is a Ricochet. We'll look at this card, right? I cost 3. So essentially it's a mana discount if you've done that 4 times this game. Love that. Deal 1 to a random enemy or the enemy Nexus 5 times. I mean, if it costs 3, that's obviously very good. Now, this isn't going to be like you can deal 3 to an enemy and 2 to the Nexus. It reads to me as, deal 5 to an enemy 5 times or deal 5 to the Nexus 5 times. Now, obviously, there is some cool Swain synergy with that in particular because, if Swain is leveled up, then he will, deal the damage. He will stun, if he's leveled up, he will stun a whole board of units if this is played, which is really interesting. And maybe we could see some Swain stuff in there because, of course, Swain will do a lot of damage as well. And yeah, that seems like a nice card. Obviously, it's like a card that will go in a specific deck. It's not like going to go in every deck, but I think essentially it can become a 3-mana Decimate plus. And Decimate is already a 5-mana slow speed deal 4, so this is just 6 mana to deal 5 and can become even more mana efficient, which doesn't necessarily matter too much because Decimate is often just a finisher anyway, so the mana cost doesn't normally matter a lot, but the fact that this can also hit an enemy as well, I think this is a pretty solid card overall. In a Noxus Shurima deck, I could definitely see it being played.
Make it worth my while. That's all.
Another landmark, which is Sand Swept Tomb. When allies attack, summon an attacking Sandstone Charger, which I'm guessing we'll see. Oh wait, is that every time?
Better deck. Line them up. Blade, sand, and treasure. Couldn't ask for more.
Oh, wow. Okay, that was cool. So, leveled up. Sivir, 6/4, obviously with quick attack and spell shield still. While I'm attacking allies have my keywords. That's a pretty good ability. On other cards, I would say, that's not great because attacking is somewhat unreliable, right? Like, if you develop at any point, they could just remove your character or your unit and you don't get whatever it is, right? But because of spell shield, it is much more likely to go off, which is very good. And this means that in this deck you can build around I love this design. This design is so cool. because there's so many different ways you can build this already. Like the fact that it's just 35 damage, you can build that in so many different ways. So many different ways, right? And this with the X getting keywords, you know, it's just going to give you a nice finisher. You know, and particularly if you can, you know, use stuff like Zenith Blade, of course, as well. It's going to give you something else to do as well with Sivir. Man, there's so many things you can do with this. That's so cool. Oh, wow. This is so cool.
Well, hello.
Another landmark. Inner Sanctum. So many landmarks. Inner Sanctum. 3 mana, reputation, I cost 0. Countdown 1. Create 2 relics of yore in hand. Don't know what they are.
All that glitters is mine.
Lucky find. Oh, wow. So it creates 2 of them for you that then gives you fleeting 0 cost gem speed extra bonuses. Wow. And it can be anything.
Guess who just earned her bonus?
I am stunned. That is so cool. Oh my god. That is so cool. Right. 35 damage. That's you know, that's what we kind of need to think about. How easy is the level up? 35 damage. Well, we can compare with Swain, right? Who deals 12 non-combat damage. So that's a third of it. And that's just non-combat damage, right? And Swain, I think most people would agree that Swain is pretty easy to level up overall. So 35. I think, when can you get 35 reliably? I would say you'll probably not be leveling up until about round 7. I think 7 sounds about right for 35 total damage. I think that is like a good estimate. 7, 8, somewhere around there. So that's where I kind of expect the level up condition to come in. But what I mean, this thing here, that landmark that they showed us, this one that gets you these 2 relics of yore, that really is a great synergy. I mean, that's just so cool. So I think what we're going to do is wait for the Mobalytics reveal and then come back and then, you know, talk about all the cards, and whilst I think about Sivir, and if there's any other way to pronounce it, Sivir. So I will see you then. Okay, so here we are with all the new cards. We'll come back to Sivir at the end, and Sivir's spell is Ricochet, so that's important to note as well. But we'll go on to the cards that we haven't seen first. So we've got Boomerang Blade, which is 7 mana slow speed, and ally strikes the strongest and weakest enemies. Could we see this in Fiora Shurima? Maybe as a one-of. That's the deck that comes to mind when I think about this. Otherwise, I think it's just a bit too, like, all in, you know, because obviously, like, a Vengeance. I mean, obviously it goes pretty well with Sivir, but I'm not sure that it's like a 7 mana slow speed spell. So unless you're in, like, I don't know, a weird, like, Fiora Sivir deck, which could maybe be a deck, although I don't necessarily see that happening. But yeah, maybe in a Fiora Shurima deck, which very well could exist, by the way. But otherwise, maybe not. Payday. If this was fast speed, by the way, then it definitely would be a card, right? But okay, Payday. 2 mana, focus, which is gem speed. Create a lucky find in hand. Here is the lucky find, which is the same thing as that. So pick a buff from among 3 to grant an ally. So this is just, you know, either different keywords, as we saw in the video, Challenger, Quick Attack, or even like an attack buff of 2 or a health buff of 2, right? You can get those as well. And it'll just give you 3, and you pick one, of course. So Payday at gem speed gives you something here. Again, this feels more like Fiora type things, right? Like you give... It is grant. So, I mean, yeah. Wow, with Fiora, wow. That's pretty good. Because it's giving you something to grant it. I mean, imagine granting Fiora Quick Attack, right? Like, that's good. Could also give Overwhelm to some things. You could give Elusive to some things. Payday is an interesting card. Would you pay 2 mana to get that? It is random as well. I think you're more likely to play Inner Sanctum, to be honest. Definitely with Talia. I definitely think you'll play Inner Sanctum with Talia. It seems like a pretty good landmark to have. The fact that you get 2 lucky finds from it, you can give, a bunch of units. They are fleeting. Oh, that's interesting. So you do have to think about that. So you have to have the right things on board as well. They are fleeting. Maybe that makes Payday slightly better than Inner Sanctum. Oh, man, that's interesting. They are interesting cards. I think they're pretty good, but I'm not quite sure just yet. Oh, so now we have, of course... I was wondering why we were getting so many cards. These are all the things you can get from Lucky Find, so let's just quickly make sure we don't miss any. So Spell Shield, pretty good. Or very good, I should say. Challenger, pretty good. Fearsome, not so much. The extra attack, maybe on Braum or something, right? But nothing amazing. 1/1, probably you can do better than that. Quick attack, pretty good. Extra health, pretty good. Tough, okay. Overwhelm, pretty good. And that's all of them, right? So overall, you're gonna probably get a good option. I doubt you'll, you could find like Fearsome 1/1 and 2 extra attack maybe, which wouldn't be great, but the rest you're gonna find something you probably want. Walking Sands, a 2-mana slow speed spell. Summon a Sandstone Charger, which is this thing here, a 2-mana 5/2 ephemeral. This is obviously similar to Haunted Relic and Onslaught of Shadows. Is that what it's called? The 2-mana one that summons 2 2/2s ephemerals in Shadow Isles. I don't think this is good enough to be playable. No. But Sandswept Tomb is a much more interesting card, I think. When allies attack, summon an attacking Sandstone Charger. This, I think, could go in an ephemeral deck. Very much so. Because, of course, as soon as you summon the Sandstone Charger, then you summon the Shark Chariot as well. So that's 8 extra attack that you are getting. And obviously there is other good synergies with this as well, particularly Katarina, which is really fun. Of course, you can just attack multiple times, and you've got, this free ephemeral that's coming at you as well, which feels pretty good. Like a Katarina deck with Sandswept Tomb, there are some things already in Shurima that I think go fairly well with Katarina. Stuff like all the vulnerable spells, right? Katarina likes that kind of thing because, if you give a challenger, she's not losing too much momentum, and you can pick something off, potentially important as well, which feels pretty nice. And so I think Sandswept Tomb, I don't think it's amazing, but I think in the right deck, it can definitely provide quite a bit of value. And, especially with rally effects, this is something that could be scary, turns 7, 8. If you are playing Katarina, you've just got that, then, I'll definitely be building that deck. It's fun at the very least. Then we have Callous Bone Crusher, 4-mana 6/3, reputation I cost 2. So it would be a 2-mana 6/3. Personally, I don't see it for that. And now Ruin Runner is a 5-mana 6/4 Spell Shield Overwhelm. Well, one of the decks that I definitely will be playing, and I think now looks pretty good, is a Shurima, either Freljord or Noxus Overwhelm, right? My inkling is it'll probably be Freljord, but it very well could be Noxus as well. And Ruin Runner, with Xenotype Researchers, imagine that. You get a 5-mana 9/7 with Overwhelm Spell Shield. That seems pretty good. So, yeah, this is definitely looking like an extra, Shurima Overwhelm package that looks like a deck that will be a thing and looks pretty decent to say the least. So I'm excited for that card. But with that said, let's go back. Let's go back in time to where we started off with Sivir. I think Sivir, at the very least, and this is a very important part, I think, of card evaluations. It's something that people kind of perhaps don't always think about, but it's about floor and ceiling, right? Twisted Fate is good because his floor is very high and his ceiling is very high. That's why he's a good champion. Aphelios is very good because his floor is pretty high and his ceiling is very, very high, right? That's why he's good. And if you look at bad champions, it's because their floor is low and their ceiling could be high, but if their floor is low, and what I mean by that is, something like Zed, right? You play Zed, he gets Mystic Shot, you don't have protection, he dies. You feel bad. right? Zed might have a high ceiling. Zed can win games on his own. But his floor is really low. Whereas Sivir, her floor is pretty high because of that spell shield and the quick attack. You know, your opponent is probably going to have to, you know, sacrifice a unit and a spell potentially to get rid of Sivir. Well, that's 2 cards for 1, right? So that's a pretty high floor. Getting rid of Sivir is going to be difficult. She doesn't need to level up seeing things, which is also very important. You know, generally speaking, you know, the champions that don't need to do that tend to be better. Not always, but, you know, tend to be better. And Sivir doesn't need that, which feels really good as well. And then her level up, whilst maybe not the, you know, craziest of abilities, so her ceiling isn't super high, it is pretty high. And, you know, especially if you have some synergies with that as well, whether you're granting or overwhelm with the lucky finds or whatever, you know, that can win you a game. And so, to me, Sivir feels like a champion that is just good. Like she feels like a strong champion. I'm not sure exactly what deck she fits in yet. Obviously, there definitely is Noxus synergies with kind of a 5 attack thing, of course. We've seen that with Ashe. Now we might see that with Sivir instead. But there's definitely flexibility within Sivir, and you could definitely try her out in a bunch of different ways. And I'm excited to do that because that seems like a really, really fun way of playing the game. So Sivir, I think, is good. Her spell here as well, I mean, 6 mana dealing 5 to the enemy Nexus isn't even that bad. I actually think the cost reduction is more important in decks where you want to be hitting the enemy. You know, because the removal for 3 mana matters more, I think, than just dealing straight Nexus damage. Because it's winning you game at 6 mana, it doesn't matter whether it's 6 mana or 3 mana. If it's winning the game, you don't care. But for removing a unit, you probably do care. So I think that's more important, which is kind of odd because that might be a, you know, sort of different decks that get this reputation cost. But I do think it's an interesting card nonetheless, and it's an okay card. I don't think it's bad. I think, you know, at the very least it's okay and can win games. So any card that can win a game is probably okay. And yeah, let me just quickly... we've touched on everything else, right? I think there's definitely some interesting things in here. More landmarks for Shurima, you know, Talia. Obviously, we'll see if these go in the decks. Inner Sanctum is an interesting one. It feels like there's something there that I'm missing. There's definitely something, a board state that, you know, I'm sure someone will come up with where it's like, that would be nuts, right? That would be unfair if you had this board state with it, right? It might just be Fiora. It might just be Fiora. You've got Fiora on board, you play this, and you give Fiora 2 of these things. You know, you give Fiora Quick Attack and Spell Shield. Good luck, bro. I don't know how you win, because the rest of their deck is also the same things. So Fiora Shurima looks pretty good. I'm very excited to play Sivir Noxus, which I think will be decent at the very least. I'm excited to play the Overwhelm deck as well with Shurima. There's a lot of things that are here already. Maybe even Ephemerals as well, right? I'm interested with this with Katarina. This is an exciting day. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for watching and have a really nice day.